Morgan Halaska. I'm the arts assistant editor for the Twin Cities Daily Planet. I started there in 2011. That's when I started writing theater reviews. Right now, this is like Twin Cities Daily Planet is a freelance job for me, but I work as an assistant editor for local magazines, Minnesota Meetings and Men's magazines. And I graduated college in 2007 and always strived for a job in publication, or in publishing and writing specifically, so find ways to fit that need.
Great, okay, so we would just like to know if there were any specific events or experience that you had that really helped you find your niche and voice in writing.
Stumped them. I had a few writing internships that I think were really good. One for Metro Magazine, which is no longer being published, but that way I was able to explore different people on different aspects of the cultural scene in the Twin Cities. So
I'm trying to think if there was one event. I mean, I always wanted to be a writer. I mean, from way back, fourth grade or fifth grade or whatever, when I was just scrawling all these stories in my notebooks. And I just kept kind of following that, even through the occasional detour into the science program at the university to finding work. But I guess I can't really point to a single event that pushed me towards that. It's just kind of part of my DNA since I can remember.
So I think the specific that helped you find your voice as a writer, or is that kind of come with?
You know, some of it had to do with some mentorship I had along the line. One of my professors in college was a well-known theater critic who had retired from the Twin Cities, and he was really helpful in kind of focusing, helping me along in discovering some of these other, discovering the kind of things that I'd like to write about and write well about. And there was some additional kind of education that I did. There's a program at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in Connecticut called the National Critics Institute, which allows sort of mid-career critics to spend a couple of weeks at a boot camp, essentially writing and watching shows every day and writing every night and getting critiqued every morning. And that was a real kind of pivotal event, just for kind of really focusing my writing, seeing that, yes, I could do this a lot. I really did enjoy doing this. Even I was up to 2 or more, 6.
Do you have any specific tips regarding the actual act of writing a review? Or Morgan, maybe you could talk a little bit about editing and the editing process.
well, for the Daily Planet, we're still scene-based, so we like everything that we get in. We like to keep the voice of that person who wrote it. So if I'm editing a theater review, I always find it important to keep everything there that the reviewer wrote, because that's their perspective. I didn't go to see the show specifically, so I always like to make sure that I maintain their voice. It's important tip for editing, I think, because you want to, sometimes you just have this urge to rewrite it and make it sound good in your eyes, but you have to remember that as a writer, some people are very particular about what they write and what they want to say, so you don't want to change that too much.
Yeah, writers appreciate that. As far as, I guess, forming theater reviews, the work starts long before you actually go to the show itself. So there'll be some, like any other kind of journalism or any kind of writing, you're going to do some research ahead of time, and that can be something as simple as just reading a bit about the play. It can be more if it's a new work or a work you really want to have to really feel before you go see it. You can ask for a script. The script ahead of time, because I also, along with reviewing, I also do just general theater writing for City Pages for our blog Dressing Room. And so I oftentimes will do advances of a lot of the shows that I'm going to go see, so I can talk to the directors or the actors and get a sense of how they're approaching the work. That's really important, I think. If it's a work familiar work, everyone has how they want to do Hamlet. And you want to kind of get a sense, before you even go in, what their take on it is. Because that can start, if not molding your opinion, at least start molding how you might want to approach the story. And when you're writing on relatively quick deadlines, typically, for the newspaper, for the review that appears on Wednesdays, I have to come in Sunday morning. Usually, if I'm lucky, I go to the show Friday night. I have an extra day, but oftentimes I go to the show Saturday night, which means I have just until the next morning. So I want to be prepared, and I even sometimes will have some pre-thoughts about how I might want to write the review. Just some entrees into it. I just went to Killer Inside over the weekend, and this is a devised work by Sandbox Theater. So it's an experimental work. It's a musical, but it's not a musical. I mean, they sing songs, but this is not an American musical. And I thought, well, this is kind of a nice way, because a lot of people don't like musicals, especially people who read city pages. So I thought, well, we can talk about what musicals are and what the show isn't, and why this show might be something that's more towards you. Even before I saw the show, I said, well, I can at least have this in mind, and that can start forming my thoughts. And while I'm at the show, obviously I'm taking notes, and those thoughts are continuing to sort of gel as I'm observing different performances, as I'm trying to see the different ways that I might approach the writing. And then thankfully, I at least get a night or some time to sleep on it, which is really helpful for focusing your thoughts for the next morning. In the past, having worked at dailies, I've had to do what they call overnight reviews, which are reviews you write the moment you get back to the office. Those require more preparation. So you're really focused, because you might only have a half an hour from the time you sit down at your desk to the time your editor is staring over your desk going. So it's some of the process I go through.
Yeah, so you've talked about preparing to see a show, but what is the process when you actually start to write a review? A lot of people were wondering how to conduct writer's block, and also how to make sure that your reviews are unique and not all sounding the same. And then also, let's see, I have it in there. Oh, how do you decide to talk about like what areas of the show you really know you need to put in, and what areas you decide, okay, this didn't come out, this doesn't need to be in?
Do you usually have a word count in my review?
Yeah, the newspaper review is around 600 words. The ones that are online are pretty wide open as far as word count goes. Though I do try, I'm pretty schooled at writing in the 500 to 600 word range. So that's the first thing you're thinking about. To be honestly, what's the space that you're going to fill with this review? If you've got a 200 word space or 150 word space, how you're going to approach what you write is very different than if you have a 600 or 800 or 1,000 word space. Even if you can, 150 words is maybe 2/3 of a single sheet of paper, double spaced. Well, 600 words or 800 words is 2 to 3 to 4 pages. So you can kind of envision very short when you're talking 150 words, and that's like when you're looking at something that's really that short, it's like all you can do really is that's very simple. Here's my opinion. Here's some thinking about that opinion. This is kind of how I back up that opinion. Is it worthwhile or not? When you start getting to the 600 or 800 words, then you can start. You still, the first place to start is how did I feel about the show? I guess any review, you're kind of saying, okay, what did I think? And hopefully you've got some clarity about what you think. If it's a show that really wowed you, or a show that you stormed out of, actually literally stormed out of, or just in your head, those are the easiest ones to write, usually. It's the ones that are in the middle. And that's usually, I think, where you might find writer's block kicking in. And deadlines are a great way to get rid of writer's block. You don't have an option. But I understand that it's something, oftentimes it's hard to figure out where to start. And guess if you're doing a theater review and you're really stuck, just start describing what you saw. Just
Yeah, I think so.
go through some plot at the very least. Maybe just do some description of what the set was like and what the general, even before you start getting into opinion, just to start jarring your mind.
Right, yeah, I think, at least for me, when I find myself like not knowing what to say about what I saw, and I'll just start with plot points and then, throw in the director's name, throw in all the names that I can, and then things start coming back. And sometimes there are times when I see a show and I think I like it, and then when I go to write my review, I'm like, did I actually like it as much as I thought I did? So it's kind of nice to have that retrospect and kind of think about actually think about what you liked. And sometimes it's a good idea to make just like an outline of what you want to say and what points you want to touch on, and that way at least you have a structure to go off of.
So Morgan, it sounds like you have a little bit of history with writing as well. Do you ever go back and edit your own work formally as
Oh yeah.
position as an editor, or do you differentiate that a little bit from the own editing that like a reviewer might do before they send it to an editor? And what role can an individual play on their own work, and then how can another person kind of help along with that as well?
I mean, I'll definitely get my copy as clean and concise as I think I can make it before I give it to another editor. And sometimes you just need that feedback too to see where you can change or like be better in future reviews. I'm not sure there's.
Oh, I mean, just like, do you have a different experience editing your own work than editing other people's work?
Yeah, and like I said before, it's with the citizen journalism that is the Twin Cities State of the Planet. You don't want to dive in too much into their work, and you want to keep it as honest to what they had submitted in. But I think at least with my work, I can do whatever I want with it. I can move and take out an entire sentence without feeling like I'm like ruining someone's work. So yeah, it's very different.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, we are wondering how being a reviewer affects seeing theater and just not to review it, just to see it. Is it hard to enjoy theater, or and do you find yourself always trying to write a review in your head, or is there a way to differentiate the two?
No, you're always reviewing. You review everything you see as you start doing it for a living. It just kind of gets into your soul, whether you want to or not. And to be honest, as far as theater goes, that I'm not writing about, it might be 2 or 3 times a year. Almost every time I go out to the theater, I have some sort of writing in mind. But any kind of art, though. I do movies. I should say any kind of art. I don't write about movies. I don't write about television, but I do get those kind of judgments all the time. That's not convincing at all. What are they doing? And I don't think it cuts off the pleasure, but you learn to enjoy things in a different way. You're not going to have that sort of fresh-faced, this is the most exciting thing I've ever seen. It's harder to get swept away by a show when you're part of your mind. Let's kind of think of it, your mind, it has to exist in a couple different states when you're reviewing, because there's an emotional state that you need to be able to follow and maintain, because theater has to work at an emotional level, but there's an analytical part of you that's trying to pull it apart at every turn, and that's not necessarily trying to find fault, but it's just the way you do your work, just as any journalist does or any reporter does. You're trying to find the components of what you're watching and what's happening, and to reinterpret and to look at those components and understand those components to the point where you can then convey what happened to another person who wasn't there. Writing about theater is hard because you're compressing a 2 to 3 hour experience into less a 600 words, and you're coming at it from your own perspective. And yeah, so you really, you just can't turn off. That's my perspective on the shoot.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more enjoyable going to a show if you know that you don't have to write about it, because you can just relax and let your mind wander. But I think once you're reviewing, everything has to be on. You have to be aware of all that's going on, and it's kind of like a homework assignment. So
Though a homework assignment with a paycheck.
sometimes for some people,
Yeah,
yeah.
try.
Yeah, so what are your favorite and not so favorite aspects of your career, and within that, have you had any really exceptional standout experiences?
I mean, I think just working from the bottom up. I started as an intern in the Daily Planet. And so you're just you're starting at the bottom, you're just doing everything and all the work that no one else wants to do. But once you keep working at it, you really want to be into writing or editing, and it just keeps getting better and better if you can actually get a full-time writer job or editing job, because you know that's what you actually want to do. Not sure if I actually answered your question.
Okay. Whatever makes you feel is fine. Okay, well, I think now we will open up. Oh, sorry.
Did you want to say something about that, or? It's okay if you don't.
I can come back.
Okay. Well, we're going to open up questions to the room. So if you have a question, if you could just raise your hand, we'll try to get to everybody. Great.
I've had this question since last year, and I've been having it in my mind since then. How do you guys criticize shows that have either a lot of child actors in them, or when a child actor is like the main character? Do you criticize them like you would do a normal show or a normal actor, or do you treat it a little bit differently?
At least for the Daily Planet, we don't actually set out to review children's theater when it's all children.
Yeah.
So it's not like criticizing like a child actor, like they're really bad. I mean, that's just not.
Well, it's the same as like Annie or Oliver though, so
Yeah.
like younger children in the show.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, it's just one of those things where you have to be careful about it. If they actually did a terrible job, then I wouldn't go out and bash their acting.
I think if I was to be critical of a child actor, perhaps some of the terminology, you can, you know that an adult actor has probably developed a thicker skin than a younger actor, so you can probably get away with being more flippant about some bad performances. But a child actor, you just want to note that perhaps the performance wasn't up to snuff and not belabor it. On the other hand, a lot of these kids are professionals, so I'm going to keep them, at CTC, for example, it's a professional company, and I'm going to keep the company to a professional standard. They often don't expose the children actors to that kind of, there's usually a good core of adults around, even the youngest cast, to kind of help them along and kind of take some of the focus off of them. And we'll see, and again, it's kind of a case by case with them too. But again, I would not want to go out and really get down on a poor child actor. And one of the things I guess I always keep in mind is the level of the company itself that I'm reviewing. So a full professional company, the Guthrie, Chanhassen, Mark Square, other places like that have either are completely equity, which is the actors union. So you're going to have certainly a certain level of professionalism throughout the entire production. The company company is rehearsing all day during the day for the whole rehearsal process. There's a level of sophistication and smoothness and preparedness that I'm expecting off of those companies, where a company where I know the actors are getting paid, or they're getting paid just a tiny amount of gate, they're rehearsing at night after their day jobs, and they're doing it out of the love of wanting to put on the show. They may get more of a pass, but still, if that's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because at the end of the day, what I'm writing about is for the benefit of the readers, not for the actors, not for the company, not for the theater community, but for the readers who may want to spend their 10, 20, 40, 60, 150, $200 to go to the show.
Yep, I can't see your name, would you say?
Oh,
your name?
Cameron,
Thank you.
do you find yourself writing reviews targeted more towards the positive side of the performance, or towards more like what they did wrong or flaws in the performances?
So it depends on how bad it was or how good it was. Definitely like to say at least a couple good things if it's something you don't really like. It's just my preference. But at the same time, I'm not looking for faults, and like if something, I'm not always set up to look for faults necessarily too.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same. I mean, a lot of it will depend on what the experience is like, how well the show is. You know, if it's a well put together show that doesn't really have all the problems with it, I'm not going to hone in on someone's slip in the second act that didn't really cause any kind of stir or anything like that. What you're looking for are patterns within the performances, and patterns within the production that indicate where there may be flaws or where there may be strengths. And that will often dictate, and that's a good way to figure out how you feel about a show. Because when you're ambivalent about it, or there's just this jaggedness about what's good and what's bad, that sort of isolating those different elements and saying, well, these are kind of the credits, and these are sort of the debits of it, and probably still going to end up somewhere in the wishy-washy middle. That's hard to avoid sometimes.
Okay.
So if you are going to a show that isn't new or anything, it's a really popular show, and you personally have a very extreme emotion, I guess, about it, whether it be good or bad, how do you, I guess, steer away from bringing that towards that production?
I think if you have that strong of an emotion about it, you need to be honest about that. You have to own up to how you feel. But a lot of that then has to be being honest. And those can be really interesting as a writer, because you need to do some self-analysis and figure out why, okay, boy, everyone else was loving this show, and I just wanted to just stand up and scream. Why are we doing this? And it's kind of fun actually to say, okay, well, what was my experience like? What was I seeing? What do I think the rest of the audience was seeing? And of course, you can only make conjecture at that point about how the other people were feeling, and maybe you can get a sense from their reactions and such of how that's working. It's kind of sort of embrace the challenge at that point. Sort of ride with it. Writing about theater is you don't know what's going to happen in the play, but you don't necessarily know what's going to happen if you don't know how well it's going to be produced or know what's going to happen that night. It's part of the fun. Is actor B going to collapse in the middle? It's not that, but I'm just saying, is this going to happen? You just, so you always know how Star Wars is going to end, unless you edit it yourself. So, but you don't necessarily, even a well-known play, a few subtle shifts of emphasis and a couple of lines dropped here and there, and suddenly you have a emotionally very different end. And that's why you keep doing it, that's why you keep going.
I think part of this question was how do you take away bias? So
Mhm.
that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said first is just being honest and saying what you were going into, what the feelings you were going into the play with, and if they met your expectation, if they didn't. And sometimes I think I've seen some reviews that, maybe this is more on the music side, but someone will go into a show not liking the band, and then it's all of a sudden like a very biased review because they're kind of going out there to say that they don't like it. And I think that either way, and then going to something and saying that you really like that you're just in love with it, it's unfair in a way on both sides. And so I think you do have to separate yourself a little bit. You can say that you really like something and that you're a big fan, but there was this, and this that was wrong with it. But this one was really good because if you really are a fan of a certain play, a musical, you are an expert to a point.
Okay, well, here,
Sorry.
I'll continue on then.
Oh, okay, no problem.
I hate Andrew Lloyd Webber. Absolutely hate Andrew Lloyd Webber in everything he has ever done. But I go to a lot of shows, and I've seen a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber shows, and I've actually enjoyed them at times. But I know I have to put aside my bias and say, okay, I've got to judge this. I know I'm not going to like the music very much. I know the lyrics are going to drive me crazy. Go into a lot of other details. Talk about that right now. But I have to say, okay, what is this production doing? And given the material that we have, and how I feel about it, how is it done, how well has it been done? And I've written some fairly positive reviews about Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. Almost always acknowledging the fact that I don't like it. I don't like this show, but this is really well done. These actors are really good at what's happening here. And I think, every critic has those shows. That it's like, this show does not work for you. And you just have to own up to that ahead of time. You just have to be honest. If you feel like it's really clouding, going to really cloud what you're doing, you just have to be honest and tell people right up front, okay, look, I don't like this show. But let me talk about what happened on stage tonight. And what I thought was good and what I thought was bad. And if you like this show, that'll help you make your decision about it. But you know what I think.
Claire.
If you are I think this is kind of touched on, but I would like to hear more about it. If you are totally neutral on a show, do you think there's value in including both positive and some negative? Or if you are totally positive on a show, do you like to try to include some negative points? Or even if your opinion is totally one way, do you think it's
I guess what I'm looking for again is to just sort of I don't set up a formula ahead of time about X. If X happens, then I have to also write about Y or something like that. It's really more about taking what your experience was, what the experience of the show is, and trying to present that in whatever space you have. And I don't want to force bad things into it where they may not either fit into the review that I'm writing and the way I'm writing it, and that don't necessarily support the position that I'm building. You can't write about everything that occurs. And again, you kind of have to judge. I'm not offering a grade on the show that I saw. I'm just writing a review of my experience and a critique of the show based on my experience. And I'm not necessarily giving notes to the actors or to the director or the stage manager or anything like that. That's their job to do, to find flaws, all of the flaws and all the good things about the show each night and talk to the company about it. I'm just trying to kind of present what I saw. So I wouldn't force in good things or bad things if I didn't feel they had some sort of merit to what I'm writing. As you said, if I absolutely pan a show, I will try to find something I like. because there's usually, I mean, the city, we have such strong talent in the city kind of throughout the theater community. Even the worst show has something going for it. It might be the lighting design, it can be the staging of it. It could be one particular actor that really rose above the rest of the production. Perhaps by not listening to the director. But that's, again, conjecture. You can make that guess, but you never really sure. So yeah, I guess that's all I have. Do you have anything else you do?
No, I don't think I have anything to add.
I was wondering, just like your weekly, like with your job, like weekly like schedule, like do you go to a show days and just like have something to do every single week, or how does that work?
So like I said, the newspaper comes out on Wednesdays, and I have a review in there every Wednesday. And that's due on Sunday. Twin Cities, you're going to get 4, 7, or 8 or more shows opening every weekend. So there's usually some different things to pick from. So sort of the actual theater going schedule for me is between Thursday and Sunday. I'll see 2 to 4 shows. Sometimes it's more if there's something. The Twin Cities Horror Festival was just a couple weekends ago, and I went to all 9 of the productions in it over 3 days because I wanted to. Because I volunteered to do that. So that's the kind of the theater going stage of the week. Now my job is only part-time at City Pages. So some parts of the year I'm working other jobs. So that may affect how the rest of my schedule works during the week itself. During the week I'm responsible to turn in to at least do 3 additional blog posts on our blog site. And that'll usually be a couple of those. If I see 2 to 4 shows, I write about 1 for the paper. I've obviously got several more that I'll write about in the blog. I'll usually advance a couple of shows every week. So there'll be a blog post for me most days. I'm responsible for at least 3. Some weeks I'll write 5 or 6. So there might be a couple doubles up. I write up during the week. There's also a preview. A short preview I have to write for the paper's A-list section. So I'll put that together as well. There's calendar updating, which those listings that run in the paper have to get there somehow, and that means working with the database and entering information, which is something I've done for so long for every place I've worked. So that's kind of a sense of what I don't know how specific you want me to go into that, but it's a very steady thing. I mean, there's, again, with a couple of exceptions, there's something opening every weekend in this town. So there's always something to write about. There's always something to write in advance of. There's always, if I have time, there's always issues that are kind of bubbling up around theater that I can write about as well. So, kind of, go ahead.
Sorry, no, it's fine. Morgan, could you talk about your schedule and the editor?
Sure. With the daily plan, it's a little different. It's just based on what other people are coming in, and I do it in my spare time. So it'll be maybe 2 or 3 theater reviews coming in a week. So I guess we've got a lot of the theater scene covered. And personally, I like to get those reviews up right away, just because the sooner the better. And as far as reviewing, I just kind of pick and choose what I want to see. So I'm probably going in with that bias because it's a show I want to see, and hey, I can get in for free if I write a review. So,
Okay, any more questions?
Free tickets are actually a reason why a lot of people get it.
yeah.
Free critics and free tickets, free
Sure.
CDs, free books. You can do that as an arts writer.
Oh, okay. So like when you're writing a review, how do you, or reading reviews in general, how do you feel about using like words like I think and I liked and I didn't like? Because I've heard both sides of like the argument, like saying like I thought the acting was really cheesy, like makes it personal. but then just saying, but it also could weaken your argument, is what I've heard. So like, what do you guys feel about using
I
that?
very rarely use I.
Okay,
Just as a, I think it's, because my background is just so solidly in reporting and journalism, and criticism as a secondary branch of my career. So I like to leave, even though obviously in my opinion, this is what I think of what happened, I prefer to write it as in, I think, personally, I think the writing is stronger if you say the acting is cheesy,
okay,
as opposed to I think the acting is cheesy. I think you're making, you don't need to add in the extra kind of attribution to it. It's just, this is what I think, and people, they know who's written by, they know they're reading a review, they know they're reading a piece of opinion at that point, so it's not too hard to make that jump to know this is what the person who's writing thinks about it. So it's just a stronger way to write.
okay.
I agree, it's implicit at that point that what you're writing is what your opinion.
Okay.
And sometimes you might bring in some personal information, and then it might be okay to talk about I've done that a few times here and there. If you're just sort of bringing in a little bit of your, you want to touch on something in your own experiences, that just sort of either leads into the story or illustrates what you're talking about. It's kind of a nice way to get into the story. And then it's okay to add a few personal pronouns here and there. But again, it should be more about, this was my experience, and I did this and did this. And then when you get to the show itself, it should really be of what happened and written kind of as it. This is what demonstratively what happened.
Okay.
Good question.
Mine was actually basically the same as that. To elaborate, so I guess I kind of struggle to find like a good medium between